The waiting room smelled of iodine and old magazines. Martha sat with her knees together, ankles crossed, the way her mother had taught her 62 years ago. Fluorescent lights buzzed overhead like trapped insects. She had come for the trimmer in her left hand, the one that had started spilling coffee and misplacing keys. Dr. Sterling's nurse called her name too softly, as if volume itself might bruise. Inside the exam room, the paper on the table crackled when she sat. Dr. Sterling entered without knocking, white coat flapping like a surrender flag. He had been her physician since Benjamin was in braces. His eyes still carried the same gentle fatigue. He listened to her heart, tapped her knees, asked her to follow his pen with her gaze. Routine. Safe. Then he reached into his pocket. His fingers trembled worse than hers as he pressed a folded square of paper into her palm. The contact lasted half a second, but the heat of it branded her skin. "Blood pressure's fine," he said aloud, voice pitched for the chart. His eyes flicked to the door, then back to her. "Take your usual meds." Martha slipped the note into the pocket of her linen slacks before the nurse returned with discharge papers. She signed where indicated, smiled the small, polite smile that had carried her through decades of school plays and parent-teacher nights. Only when she reached the parking lot did she unfold it beneath the steering wheel. "Don't go home. Run." The words were written in blue ballpoint, the ink feathering where his hand had shaken. No salutation, no explanation. Just those 4 words, stark as a bone. She stared until the paper blurred. A joke? A mistake? Dr. Sterling had never been theatrical. She thought of his daughter, leukemia, sophomore year of college, and the way he still kept her photo taped inside his office cabinet. People who have buried children do not prank the elderly. Martha drove home anyway. The route was muscle memory, left on Maple, past the library where she'd once chaired the book sale, right on Crestview where the oaks met overhead like clasped hands. Her bungalow waited at the end of the cul-de-sac, hydrangeas blooming defiant blue against the siding. Benjamin's SUV sat in the driveway, black and gleaming, a vehicle that cost more than her first house. She let herself in through the side door, the one that squeaked since 1998. Voices drifted from the kitchen, low, intimate, the timber couples use when they believe themselves alone. Seaview Manor has a memory care wing opening in March. We secure the spot now, the Forge competency eval gets her in without a court fight. Martha froze in the mudroom, grocery bags still in her arms. Milk bled cold against her hip. Benjamin's reply came measured, the same tone he'd used to negotiate his first corporate merger. "The offshore account is already in my name. Cayman trustee owes me a favor. Once she's declared non-competence mentis, the properties transfer automatically. Mom won't even know." A soft clink, ice in a glass. Eleanor again. "She's been forgetting the stove, Ben. It's merciful." Merciful. The word lodged in Martha's throat like a fishbone. She set the bag down soundlessly, slipped off her shoes. The hallway runner muffled her steps. She knew every creak in this house, had memorized them, raising 2 children who no longer visited unless summoned by inheritance. At the kitchen threshold, she pressed herself to the wall, phone already recording in her pocket, the screen dark to hide the glow. Benjamin stood at the island, sleeves rolled, pouring amber liquid into crystal. Eleanor leaned beside him, one manicured hand on his forearm. They looked like a magazine spread, power couple plotting retirement, not the dispossession of a mother. 2.2 million liquid, Benjamin continued, plus the lake house, the condo in Naples, and this place once the market peaks. We listed in spring, blame the move on her dementia. Neighbors will nod sympathetically. Eleanor traced the rim of her glass. "She asked me last week if I was still in cheerleading. She thinks I'm 16. They laughed, soft, almost tender. The sound peeled paint from Martha's heart. She had taught Eleanor to parallel park in this driveway, had hemmed her wedding dress, the silk slipping through her fingers like water, had held her firstborn grandchild seconds after the cord was cut, whispering, "You are so wanted." Now the same daughter-in-law tallied her net worth like a quarterly report. Martha's hand found the doorframe. The wood was cool, familiar. She had painted herself the summer Benjamin left for Stanford, choosing eggshell white to hide the fingerprints of childhood. The tremor in her fingers stilled, replaced by something colder. Clarity, maybe, or the first honest rage she'd felt in years. Benjamin lifted his phone, thumb scrolling. Trustee says 48 hours to reroute the Naples deed. After that, she can scream all she wants from Seaview. The doctors will sedate her. Eleanor's voice dropped. What about the safe deposit box? Already drilled. New signature card lists me as sole signatory. Martha stopped recording. The kitchen light caught the edge of a manila folder on the counter, her name typed in bold, beneath it, medical power of attorney. She recognized Dr. Sterling's letterhead peeking from the edge, the corner crumpled as if clutched too hard. The note in her pocket burned hotter now. Don't go home. Run. But this was home. Every photograph on the fridge, every scuff on the baseboards, every recipe card in her mother's handwriting taped inside the spice cabinet. They planned to erase her from it the way one deletes files. Select all, empty trash. She backed away, silent as snowfall. In the hallway, she opened the closet, pulled down the old Leica she hadn't touched since the grandkids outgrew disposable cameras. The camera still held a half-exposed roll of film. Christmas 2019, the last time they'd all gathered. She slipped it into her purse beside the phone. Upstairs, her bedroom waited unchanged. The quilt her grandmother pieced from flour sacks, the cedar chest containing her wedding dress, yellowed but intact. On the dresser sat the anniversary clock Benjamin Sr. had given her the year before the aneurysm, its ticking the only heartbeat in the house for a decade. Martha opened the laptop on the nightstand. Muscle memory guided her fingers. Offshore bank, username her maiden name, password the dog's birthday. The balance glowed, $2,200,451.83. Beside it, 3 property deeds, hyperlinked in soothing blue. She took screenshots, emailed it to an address she hadn't used since college, her roommate, now a probate attorney in Portland. Subject line, if I disappear. Downstairs, the conversation had shifted to logistics, packing her clothes, donating the furniture, staging the house for quick sale. Their voices floated up the stairwell like smoke. She closed the laptop. In the closet, she found the go bag she'd packed after 9/11 and never unpacked. Passport, cash, a change of clothes. The kind of kit widows assemble when they learn the world can end mid-morning. She added the Leica, the phone, and Dr. Sterling's note. At the bedroom door, she paused. The hallway runners stretched before her like a gauntlet. She could still confront them, demand answers, watch their faces crumple or harden. But the note was clear, and the forged documents clearer. Whatever mercy they offered came gift-wrapped in betrayal. Martha descended the back stairs, the ones the kids used to sneak in after curfew. The kitchen door closed behind her with the soft finality of a coffin lid. Outside, dusk painted the hydrangeas violet. She left the grocery bag on the porch steps, milk pooling white against the concrete, a small domestic crime scene. The tremor had returned to her hand, but she gripped the keys until the metal bit half-moons into her palm. As she backed out of the driveway, she caught a glimpse of Benjamin in the window, phone to his ear, gesturing animatedly. He hadn't noticed the empty space where her car had been. Eleanor stood beside him, head tilted in that way that once meant she was listening to a bedtime story. Martha shifted into drive. The streetlights flickered on one by one, illuminating the familiar route in reverse. She did not look in the rearview mirror.
Some reflections, once seen, could not be unseen. At the stop sign, she unfolded Dr. Sterling's note again. Beneath the original message in smaller script she hadn't noticed before, he had added, "Bus station, locker 42. I'm sorry." The paper trembled between her fingers, but her foot pressed steady on the accelerator. Behind her, the house shrank to a lit square, then a spark, then nothing. Ahead, the road unspooled into darkness, vast and unmarked. For the first time in years, Martha did not know what came next. The uncertainty tasted like copper and like freedom.
The 5 a.m. escape. The house breathed around her in the dark, the way old lovers do when they pretend to sleep. Martha moved through it like a ghost who had paid the mortgage for 38 years. Each floorboard knew her weight, yet none betrayed her tonight. She had already crossed the Rubicon in the driveway. Now she was simply collecting evidence. In the study, moonlight striped the desk through half-closed blinds. She opened the bottom drawer, fingers finding the leather-bound ledger she'd kept since Benjamin Sr.'s death. Every dividend, every property tax, every dollar funneled offshore after the tech boom. The pages rustled like dry leaves. She tucked it into the go bag beside the phone, still warm from recording her children's treachery. The recorder itself went in last, a black rectangle no larger than a matchbox. She pressed play once, volume low, Benjamin's voice, tinny and damning. Cologne the card, max it at the casino, blame her gambling once she's inside. Then stopped it. Enough. She zipped the bag, the sound sharp as a scalpel. Upstairs again, she changed into the navy slacks and white blouse she wore to volunteer at the library. Respectable, forgettable. In the closet mirror, she caught her reflection. Silver hair escaping its bun, eyes too bright, like someone fevered. She looked, absurdly, like a woman fleeing a fire she herself had set. On the kitchen counter, she left the note, handwriting deliberately shaky. Errands. Back by noon. Love, M. The lie tasted metallic, but it would buy hours. She underlined noon twice, the way she used to when the kids were late for curfew. The side door sighed shut behind her. Pre-dawn air carried the scent of cut grass and distant ocean. Her sedan waited under the street lamp, dew beating on the hood like tiny accusations. She slid behind the wheel, engine purring awake with apologetic softness. First stop, the 24-hour branch on Elm. The ATM camera stared down like a cyclops. She withdrew the daily maximum, $500, then drove to the next branch, and the next, until 10 crisp 10,000 had been counted into an envelope marked Book Sale Proceeds. The teller at the final window hesitated over her trembling hands. "Big donation?" the girl asked, sympathetic. Martha managed a smile that felt borrowed. "For the children's wing." She was, after all, still a mother. The Grand Imperial Hotel crouched on the edge of downtown, a wedding cake relic from when rail barons summered here. Its lobby smelled of beeswax and regret. The night clerk barely glanced up from his crossword. "Name?" She said Sterling. M. Sterling. The lie slid out easier than expected. Dr. Sterling's warning had gifted her an alias. She accepted it like communion. Room 312 overlooked the alley where delivery trucks idled at dawn. She locked the door, chained it, then wedged the desk chair beneath the knob for good measure. Only then she exhaled. The bedspread was chenille, the kind her own mother had called a hug from the past. Martha sat on the edge, go bag between her feet, and opened the ledger again. Columns of numbers marched in her neat accountant's hand. Assets her husband had built, she had protected, her son now planned to devour. She traced the final entry, $2,200,451.83. The decimal point looked like a tear. Her fingers found the business card taped inside the ledger's back cover.
Leela Grant Private Investigations. Discreet, reasonable rates. She had hired Leela once, years ago, when Benjamin's college girlfriend kept calling the house at 3 a.m. Leela had traced the girl to a dorm in Boston and suggested a firm conversation. The call stopped. Martha had paid in cash and never expected to need her again. She dialed before courage cooled. 1 ring, 2. Grant. The voice was gravel and coffee. It's Martha Whitby. Silence pulsed. From 2008. The stalker. A soft exhale. Mrs. Whitby. You okay? No. The admission surprised them both. I need to meet. Somewhere public. I have recordings, documents. My family. Her throat closed. Blue Moon Diner on 5th, Leela said without hesitation. Give me 40 minutes, order the oatmeal. It's terrible, but the corner booth has a plug. The line went dead. Martha stared at the receiver, then at her reflection in the darkened window. A stranger in a strange room, holding a ledger full of secrets. She showered because fugitives in movies always shower, letting the water scald away the scent of home. Steam fogged the mirror. When she wiped it clear, the woman looking back had cheekbones sharpened by adrenaline. She looked, absurdly, like a woman fleeing a fire she herself had set. On the kitchen counter, she left the note, handwriting deliberately shaky. Errands, back by noon. Love, M. The lie tasted metallic, but it would buy hours. She underlined noon twice, the way she used to when the kids were late for curfew. The side door sighed shut behind her. Pre-dawn air carried the scent of cut grass and distant ocean. Her sedan waited under the street lamp, dew beating on the hood like tiny accusations. She slid behind the wheel, engine purring awake with apologetic softness. First stop, the 24-hour branch on Elm. The ATM camera stared down like a cyclops. She withdrew the daily maximum, $500, then drove to the next branch and the next, until 10 crisp 10,000 had been counted into an envelope marked book sale proceeds. The teller at the final window hesitated over her trembling hands. Big donation? The girl asked, sympathetic. She managed a smile that felt borrowed. For the children's wing. She was, after all, still a mother. The Grand Imperial Hotel crouched on the edge of downtown, a wedding cake relic from when rail barons summered here. Its lobby smelled of beeswax and regret. The night clerk barely glanced up from his crossword. Name? She said Sterling. M. Sterling. The lie slid out easier than expected. Dr. Sterling's warning had gifted her an alias. She accepted it like communion. Room 312 overlooked the alley where delivery trucks idled at dawn. She locked the door, chained it, then wedged the desk chair beneath the knob for good measure. Only then she exhaled. The bedspread was chenille, the kind her own mother had called a hug from the past. Martha sat on the edge, go bag between her feet, and opened the ledger again. Columns of numbers marched in her neat accountant's hand. Assets her husband had built, she had protected, her son now planned to devour. She traced the final entry, $2,200,451.83. The decimal point looked like a tear. Her fingers found the business card taped inside the ledger's back cover. Leela Grant, Private Investigations. Discreet, reasonable rates. She had hired Leela once, years ago, when Benjamin's college girlfriend kept calling the house at 3 a.m. Leela had traced the girl to a dorm in Boston and suggested a firm conversation. The call stopped. Martha had paid in cash and never expected to need her again. She dialed before courage cooled. 1 ring, 2. Grant. The voice was gravel and coffee. It's Martha Whitby. Silence pulsed. From 2008. The stalker. Mrs. Whitby. You okay? No. The admission surprised them both. I need to meet. Somewhere public. I have recordings, documents, my family. Her throat closed. Blue Moon Diner on 5th, Leela said without hesitation. Give me 40 minutes, order the oatmeal. It's terrible, but the corner booth has a plug. The line went dead. Martha stared at the receiver, then at her reflection in the darkened window. A stranger in a strange room, holding a ledger full of secrets. She showered, because fugitives in movies always shower, letting the water scald away the scent of home. Steam fogged the mirror. When she wiped it clear, the woman looking back had cheekbones sharpened by adrenaline. She looked, absurdly, like a woman fleeing a fire she herself had set. Downstairs, the lobby clock read 5:47. She left the key at the desk and walked out into the city's first pale breath. Streetlights still glowed, but the sky behind the buildings had begun to blush. She kept to the shadows the way Leela had once taught her, shoulders back, pace unhurried. A woman on her way to early yoga, nothing more. The Blue Moon Diner squatted between a pawn shop and a bail bondsman, neon coffee cup flickering. Inside, the air was thick with bacon and bleach. Martha slid into the corner booth, ordered oatmeal she wouldn't eat. The waitress, name tag Delia.
The phone storm. The safe house was a cedar-shingled cottage on the edge of a salt marsh, reachable only by a gravel road that pretended to be a driveway. Lila had parked the car behind a stand of pitch pines and killed the engine. Inside, the air smelled of wood smoke and lemon oil. Someone had lived here once and left in a hurry. A single bulb over the kitchen table cast a cone of light that felt surgical. Martha sat on a ladder-back chair, go bag at her feet, burner phone face down like a sleeping animal. The screen kept lighting. 37 missed calls, 14 voicemails, 22 texts. All from Benjamin. The numbers climbed while she watched, as if her absence were a debt accruing interest. Lila leaned against the counter, scrolling her tablet. They've pinged your cell tower 3 times. Last one was the Grand Imperial parking lot. They're close. Martha nodded, throat dry. She had turned the phone off after the diner, but Lila insisted on powering it once more. Controlled chaos, she called it. Let them think she was still local, still reachable. The voicemail icon throbbed red. She pressed play on the most recent. Benjamin's voice filled the small room, honeyed with worry. Mom, it's past noon. Your note said errands. We're at the house. The milk spoiled on the porch. Call me, please. A pause, then softer. We love you. The message ended. Martha's hand trembled so violently, the phone clattered to the table. Lila caught it before it hit the floor. Again, Martha whispered, I need to hear the others. They listened in order. The first 3 were gentle, coaxing. By the 7th, urgency crept in. Had she fallen, taken a wrong turn? The 12th introduced Eleanor, her tone clipped. Martha, this isn't funny. The police are coming. The final one, left 20 minutes ago, was Benjamin again, voice stripped of pretense. Pick up Mom. We know about the withdrawals. $10,000? You're not well. Let us help before you hurt yourself. Martha laughed once, a sound like breaking ice. Hurt myself, she repeated. They've been hurting me for months. Lila's eyes flicked to the door, then back. Your move. We can ghost now, or you can lance the boil. Martha stared at the phone. The screen showed a photo she'd never changed. Benjamin at 12, gap-toothed, holding a blue ribbon from the science fair. She had taken the picture herself, standing on a folding chair to get the angle right. The memory rose unbidden. His small, proud shoulders, the way he'd whispered, "For you, Mom," before running to his friends. She pressed callback before the image calcified into grief. One ring. Mom? Benjamin answered so quickly he must have been holding the phone. Relief flooded his voice, then caution. Where are you? Martha closed her eyes. The cottage walls receded. She was back in the kitchen. Hydrangeas blew through the window. I'm somewhere safe, she said. Somewhere you can't forge my name. Silence crackled. Then, what are you talking about? She thumbed the recorder app Lila had mirrored to the burner. I have you on tape, Benjamin. Seaview Manor, the offshore trust, cloning my credit cards. Her voice shook, but the words kept coming, sharp as winter air. You said it was merciful. Another beat. When he spoke again, the warmth had evaporated. Mom, you've been forgetting things. The stove, the car in the driveway with the engine running. Dr. Sterling is very concerned. Dr. Sterling gave me the note that saved my life. A soft intake of breath, Eleanor, in the background. I picture them in my kitchen, standing where I'd stood hours ago, the manila folder between them like a loaded gun. You're confused, Benjamin said, gentle now, the tone he'd used when she misplaced her glasses and found them on her head. Come home, we'll get you help. The gaslight flickered, familiar as a childhood nightlight. Martha felt the old doubt stir. Had she imagined the ledger, the recording, the tremor in Dr. Sterling's hand? Then Lila mouthed a single word, debt. Martha straightened. While we're discussing confusion, let's talk about the $43,000 Eleanor charged to my Macy's card, or the 8 months you've been unemployed, Benjamin. Lila's very thorough. The line went so quiet, she heard the grandfather clock in the hallway, her clock, chiming the half hour. Benjamin's voice dropped to a whisper. You hired someone? Mom, that's paranoid. Dangerous. Dangerous is stealing from your mother to cover your wife's Nordstrom habit. The words tasted like rust and vindication. I have screenshots, bank records. The police will find them interesting. Eleanor's voice cut in, tinny through the speaker. Martha, you're scaring the children. The children. Martha's chest caved. She pictured her granddaughter's crayon drawings taped to the fridge, the one she'd promised to frame. Put Lily on, she said, surprising herself. She's napping, Eleanor snapped. Then softer. This isn't you. No, Martha agreed. It's the woman you made me. Benjamin again, pleading now. Just tell us where you are. We'll come get you. No police, no lawyers. Family takes care of family. Martha looked at Lila, who shook her head once. Trap. She muted the call, breathed until the roaring in her ears subsided, then unmuted. Goodbye, Benjamin. She ended the call, powered off the phone, removed the battery. The silence that followed was oceanic. Lila set a mug of tea in front of her. Chamomile. Too sweet. You okay? Martha wrapped both hands around the warmth. I just buried my son. Outside, wind rattled the marsh grass. Somewhere, a night heron called, lonely and precise. Lila opened her tablet again, angled it so Martha could see. Bank alerts scrolled in real time. Attempted freeze on the offshore account. Denied, wrong password. Credit cards flagged for suspicious activity, frozen. A police report filed at 14:07. Missing elderly woman, possible dementia, last seen driving a silver Camry. They moved fast, Lila murmured. But we moved faster. Martha stared at the screen until the letters blurred. $43,000 in secret debt, 8 months without a paycheck. She had paid for their vacations, their cars, the private school tuition they insisted Lily needed. Every transfer labeled gift in the ledger now looked like a noose she'd tied herself. Lila closed the tablet. They'll escalate. Hotels, traffic cams, your library volunteer list. We leave at first light. Martha nodded, but her mind snagged on a memory. Benjamin at 6, feverish, begging her not to leave his bedside. She had sung until her voice cracked, promised the monsters couldn't get him while she was there. The monsters had simply waited for her to age. She stood, legs unsteady. I need air. Lila hesitated, then handed her a flashlight. Porch only. 10 minutes. The night wrapped around her like wet wool. Stars crowded the sky, indifferent. Martha walked to the edge of the deck, where the marsh exhaled its brackish breath. She opened the go bag, removed the Leica, and loaded the half-exposed roll from Christmas 2019. The camera felt heavier than memory. She raised it to her eye, focused on the dark water.
Click. The shutter sounded like a heartbeat. Somewhere in the frame, her old life glimmered, then vanished as the film advanced. Behind her, the cottage door creaked. Lila's silhouette. Time. Martha lowered the camera. In the distance, headlights swept the main road. Paused, moved on. Not yet. She slipped the Leica back into the bag beside the ledger and the recorder, her arsenal of truths. The woman who had entered this house hours ago was ash. What rose now was tempered, sharp, unafraid to burn. As they stepped inside, the burner phone, dead on the table, caught the lamplight like a blind eye. Martha did not look back. Some storms you walk through until the sky forgets your name.
The hidden ledger. The bank opened at 9, but Martha was there at 8:47, standing beneath the brass letters that spelled First Coastal Trust, like a woman waiting for absolution. Fog clung to the sidewalk, turning passers-by into watercolor ghosts. Lila idled across the street in a borrowed pickup, baseball cap pulled low, binoculars on the dash. Martha wore a charcoal raincoat and the kind of scarf widows favor. Silk, understated, expensive enough to suggest she still belonged inside marble lobbies. The tremor in her left hand had settled into a steady pulse, as if her body had decided fear was now a metronome. The security guard recognized her from decades of Christmas parties. "Mrs. Whitby! Been a while!" His smile faltered when she didn't return it. She signed the log with her maiden name, Martha Ellison. Letters slanted like a confession. Box 312 was on the bottom row, requiring her to kneel. The carpet smelled of industrial cleaner and old money. She fit Dr. Sterling's key beside her own. The dual locks clicked like teeth. The drawer slid out with a whisper. Inside, 2 manila envelopes, one thin, one thick as a hymnal. She opened the thin one first. 3 deeds, crisp vellum. Nova Scotia, cottage on Chester Bay, cottage on Mahone Bay, cottage on St. Margaret's Bay. Each titled solely to her, recorded the year Benjamin Sr. turned 50. A yellow post-it in his handwriting, "For the life we almost retired to. Love, B." Her throat closed. She had teased him about the purchases. 3 cottages, all within an hour's drive of each other, all named after their children who never visited. He had kissed her temple and said, "Redundancy, Marty, like love. You keep extra in case one breaks." The thick envelope held the Cayman Trust. Incorporation papers, beneficiary schedules, a letter from the trustee dated 3 days after the aneurysm. She unfolded it with fingers that suddenly felt too large. "If you're reading this, I failed the stress test. The bulk of the estate is yours alone. Benjamin gets the house, the cars, a modest stipend, enough to stand, not enough to lean. Test him with nothing. If he loves you, he'll stay." She had forgotten the letter. Or buried it. The day after the funeral, Benjamin had cried in her lap, 28, and motherless in every way that mattered. She had added him to the checking account that same week, then the investment portfolio, then the safe deposit access. Redundancy, she had told herself. Like love. The box contained one more item, a Polaroid tucked into the trust folder. She and Benjamin Sr. on the dock at Chester Bay, wind whipping her hair across his laughing face. On the white border, in fading ink, 1997, the year Benjamin stopped calling on Sundays. Martha pressed the Polaroid to her chest until the edges cut. Then she slipped everything into her purse, locked the box, and walked out without looking back. The guard called after her, something about coffee in the lobby, but the words dissolved in the fog.
Outside, Lila fell into step beside her. "Eleanor's on the move," she said, without greeting. "Left the house at 7, no kids, no Benjamin. Headed downtown." They drove in silence, the pickup's heater rattling like loose change. Martha stared at the deeds on her lap. Nova Scotia. She could smell the salt air already, taste the chowder from the cafe in Lunenburg. A life she might have lived if her husband's heart had held. Lila took a sharp right into the warehouse district. Target's 2 blocks up. Paul Hayes, ex-con, specialty, medical documents, signatures, the works. Did a stint for forging prescriptions, Oxy mostly. Got out last year. Martha's stomach turned. They're manufacturing more than competency evals. Looks like. Lila parked behind a dumpster, killed the engine. "Stay here. I'll get plates, photos, audio if the wind's kind." Martha watched her disappear between brick buildings, a shadow, swallowing another shadow. The waiting was its own circle of hell. She opened the Polaroid again. Benjamin Sr.'s eyes crinkled at the corners, the way they did when he was about to tell a terrible joke. She had loved him for the jokes, stayed for the silences between them. Her phone, the real one, powered off in the glove box, felt like a tumor. She imagined Benjamin pacing her kitchen, Eleanor on the landline with lawyers, both of them rehearsing the story. Mom's confused, Mom's a danger, Mom needs us. Lila returned 23 minutes later, cheeks flushed from cold. She slid behind the wheel and handed Martha a micro-recorder. Hayes operates out of a print shop. Back room smells like toner and desperation. Eleanor brought pastries, brioche, the kind with burnt sugar. They hugged like old friends. Martha pressed play. Eleanor's voice, muffled but unmistakable. "Need the death certificate pre-dated. Stroke, not aneurysm. Makes the trust dissolution cleaner." Hayes, nasal, amused. "Strokes? Extra. People notice ink. $5,000. Done. And the nursing home intake forms. Seaview wants her signature from last year." A rustle. Paper sliding across counter. "Already aged the paper. Tea stains, coffee rings. You'll owe me a favor, Ellie." "Don't call me that." A pause. "Benjamin's unraveling. She took $10,000 cash. He thinks she's buying pills on the street." Hayes laughed, the sound of a man who'd never lost sleep over anyone's mother. "Let him think. By the time she surfaces, the trust will be drained and the cottages sold to some shell in Halifax. You'll be tanning in Naples by Christmas." The recording ended. Martha sat very still, as if movement might shatter her. Lila started the engine. "We have enough for prosecutors. Not enough for safety. They'll escalate. Missing person posters, Amber Alert for seniors, whatever sticks." Martha traced the Polaroid's border. "He told me to test him with nothing." "Looks like you did." Lila's tone was gentle, but the words landed like hail. They drove north, the city thinning into pine barrens. Martha rolled the window down. Cold air slapped her face, sharp with resin. She thought of the cottages, 3 small hearts beating on the Atlantic, waiting for a woman who might never arrive. At a rest stop outside Portsmouth, she asked Lila to pull over. The parking lot was empty except for a semi idling like a sleeping dragon. Martha took the Polaroid, the deeds, the trust letter. She climbed out, walked to the edge of the woods where snow dusted the needles like ash. She dug a shallow grave with her hands, the earth cold and resistant. Into it she placed the photo, face up, Benjamin Sr.'s smile, the last thing the dirt would see. Then the deeds, folded small. Last the letter, though she had memorized every word. "I'm sorry," to the husband who had tried to save her from their son. "I gave him everything." She covered the hole with soil and pine needles, stood until her feet went numb. When she returned to the truck, Lila didn't ask questions. They merged back onto the highway, the hidden ledger now truly hidden. 6 feet of earth and 30 years of regret. Martha stared at the road ahead, white lines stitching darkness to darkness. Somewhere behind them, Eleanor laughed over brioche, and Benjamin practiced the shape of her absence. Ahead, the cottages waited, empty but intact. She would reach them or die trying. Either way, the test was over.
The live stream. The motel room smelled of mildew and burnt coffee, the kind of place that rented by the week and forgot your name by morning. A single window faced the parking lot, neon vacancy bleeding crimson across the curtains. Martha sat on the bed's edge, knees together, laptop balanced on a Gideon Bible like an altar. Lila had chosen the Seaside Motor Inn for its unsecured Wi-Fi and proximity to the highway. 10 minutes of airtime, she'd said, rigging a VPN through 3 countries. Then we vanish. She stood by the door now, earpiece in, eyes on her phone's signal meter. Martha wore the same charcoal coat. Scarf knotted tight, her hair had come loose during the drive. Silver strands framed a face that looked carved from grief and granite. The go bag lay open beside her. Recorder, forged documents, the Leica with its half-exposed roll of Christmas ghosts. She opened the streaming app Lila had installed. Anonymous, encrypted, the digital equivalent of a paper bag over the head. Title: A Grandma Tells the Truth. She hesitated over the Go Live button, thumb hovering like a moth. Clock's ticking, Lila murmured. Martha pressed it. The screen bloomed to life. Her face filled the frame, harsh in the laptop's glare. Behind her, the motel's floral wallpaper peeled like old skin. A counter ticked upward. 12 viewers. 47. 203. She swallowed. My name is Martha Whitby. 2 days ago, my son and daughter-in-law planned to declare me incompetent and steal my life savings. This is the proof. She held the recorder to the microphone. Benjamin's voice leaked into the feed, tinny but unmistakable. Seaview Manor, forged competency eval, offshore account in my name. The words hung in the digital ether, naked. The counter surged. 1,100. 2,400. Martha laid the documents on the bed like tarot cards. The manila folder with Dr. Sterling's letterhead, the medical power of attorney bearing her signature, except the loop on the Y was wrong, the pressure too light. She angled the laptop camera to catch every forgery. She said, "These were prepared by Paul Hayes, a known forger. My son paid him in brioche and promises." Chat scrolled frantic. OMG, call the police. This is elder abuse. She clicked to the Cayman Trust, account numbers redacted, but balance glaring. $2,200,451.83. Then the Nova Scotia deeds, each cottage a small blue square on the map. She said, my husband built this for our retirement. They planned to sell it before I knew the stove was hot. 5,200 viewers, 6,100. The motel phone rang. Shrill, antiquated. Lila snatched it up, listened, hung up. Front desk. Someone's asking questions. Martha's heart stuttered, but her voice stayed level. I'm not senile. I'm not confused. I'm a mother who taught her son to tie his shoes and now teaches the world what he untied. A new call pinged the laptop. Video request. Username Olivia Whitby 03. Martha's breath caught. Her granddaughter, 16, all elbows and eyeliner last Christmas. She accepted. Olivia's face filled a small window, eyes swollen, hair in a messy knot. Behind her, a poster of some band Martha didn't know. Graham? The girl's voice cracked. They're saying you're crazy, that you'll blame me for the credit cards. I didn't know, I swear. Martha's composure fractured. Livy, baby. The childhood nickname slipped out like a sob. None of this is your fault. They took my phone, said if I talked to you, they'd... Olivia glanced off screen, terrified. They're in the kitchen now, with lawyers. 7,000 viewers. The counter blurred. Martha leaned closer to the camera. Listen to me. You are not their collateral. You are my heart walking outside my body. Record everything. Hide the phone. I'm coming for you. Olivia nodded, tears tracking mascara. The feed cut. Abruptly. Someone had ended the call. Lila's hand landed on Martha's shoulder. We're at 8 minutes. Wrap it. But the laptop chimed again. Private message, bold red. Benjamin Whitby. She clicked. Her son's face replaced Olivia's. He stood in what had been her kitchen, hydrangeas now wilted in their vase. His tie was askew, eyes red-shot. Mom, stop this now! We'll sue for defamation, elder endangerment, harassment. Martha interrupted, voice steel. Sue the truth, Benjamin. See how the jury likes your greatest hits. She replayed the kitchen recording, volume maxed. His own words drowned him. His face contorted. You're destroying our family. You dissolved it in the Caymans. She held up the trust letter, Benjamin Sr.'s handwriting trembling in her grip. Dad knew you'd fail the test. I just took 30 years to grade it. Chat exploded. Hashtag Granra tells the truth trended. Someone posted a gif of a house burning. Lila tapped her watch. 9 minutes. Signals degrading. Martha took a breath that tasted of salt and fury. One last thing. She angled the camera to the final document, Paul Hayes' rap sheet courtesy of Lila's contacts. Mr. Hayes is currently cooperating with the FBI. His pastries come with a side of immunity. Your brioche bribe? Recorded. Your forgeries? Cataloged. The agents are probably knocking as I speak. Benjamin's mouth opened, closed. For the first time, he looked small. Martha leaned in until her eyes filled the frame. Checkmate, son. She ended the stream. The screen went black, then reflected her face. Older, fiercer, a woman who had just set her old life ablaze. Lila was already packing. FBI angle was a bluff, but it'll spook them. We have maybe 20 minutes before real heat. Martha closed the laptop. The room felt suddenly cavernous. She slipped the Leica from the go bag, advanced the film one frame, and took a photo of the empty screen, her reflection faint, the vacancy sign bleeding through the curtains like a wound. Outside, tires crunched gravel. Headlights swept the window. Lila drew a small pistol from her waistband. Back door now. Martha grabbed the go bag, the weight of it familiar now. As they slipped into the night, the motel's neon flickered once, twice, then died, plunging the room into ordinary dark. Behind them, 7,000 viewers refreshed a dead feed, waiting for a grandma who had already become a legend.
Olivia's defection. The new safe house was a fisherman's cottage perched above the tide line in Kennebunkport, shingles silvered by salt and neglect. Midnight fog pressed against the windows like a living thing. Inside, a kerosene lamp hissed softly, throwing gold across scarred pine floors. Martha sat at the table, ledger open but unread, the Leica beside it like a silent witness. Lila had gone to scout the perimeter, third time since dusk. The live stream had detonated their anonymity. Every shadow now carried Benjamin's ambition or Eleanor's desperation. Martha's hands worried the enamel brooch, its hidden compartment still holding the folded trust page. She had not slept in 40 hours. A soft knock. 3 taps. Pause. 2 more. the code Olivia had texted from a burner phone bought at a gas station in Connecticut. Martha opened the door a crack. Fog swirled in, carrying the girl with it. Olivia stood on the threshold, 17 and hollow-eyed, backpack sagging from one shoulder. Her hoodie, Martha's Christmas gift, the one with the embroidered whale, was soaked through. Rainwater dripped from her lashes. Behind her, the gravel drive stretched empty to the dunes. "Graham!" The word broke in half. Martha pulled her inside, shut the door, locked it. Olivia smelled of bus exhaust and strawberry shampoo, the scent of childhood clinging like a ghost. She was shaking so hard her teeth chattered. Lila appeared from the hallway, pistol lowered but ready. She took one look at Olivia's face and holstered it. "I'll check the road," she said, and vanished again. Martha led her granddaughter to the table, peeled off the wet hoodie. Underneath, Olivia's t-shirt clung to a small, unmistakable curve. 4 months, maybe 5. The realization hit Martha like cold water. "Sit," she said, voice steadier than her heart. She fetched a quilt from the couch, faded sailboats, the kind of thing a grandmother keeps for emergencies, and wrapped it around the girl's shoulders. Olivia's hands fluttered to her stomach, protective, terrified. They'll take it, as soon as it's born. Adoption papers are already drafted, some cousin of Eleanor's in Boston. Martha poured tea from the thermos Lila kept hot. Chamomile, too sweet, the way Olivia liked it when she was 8 and afraid of thunderstorms. The girl wrapped both palms around the mug, but didn't drink. "I brought proof." Olivia dug into her backpack, produced a burner phone in a plastic bag. "Recordings. From the house. After you went live, they stopped pretending I was asleep." She set the phone on the table like an offering. Martha pressed play. Eleanor's voice first, low and intimate, not to Benjamin, to "Meet me at the cottage tonight. He's passed out on the couch again. Ambien and bourbon. Bring the ultrasound photo. Paul says it'll sway the judge." A man's laugh, unfamiliar, oily. "You always liked the scenic route, Ellie." Then Benjamin, later, on speakerphone. "Dr. Hale, the bonus we discussed, 25 for the revised diagnosis. Early onset dementia, aggressive. Make it stick. And the pregnancy. List Olivia as a ward of the state if Martha surfaces. We can't have loose ends." The recording ended. The lamp's flame guttered in a draft. Olivia's tears fell into her tea, tiny ripples. She found the papers in Dad's desk. They're selling the Naples condo to fund the lawyer. Mom's a fair guy. He's the adoption attorney. Martha's vision tunneled. She saw Olivia at 3 chasing gulls on this very beach, shrieking with joy when the waves kissed her toes. She saw her at 12 reading Little Women under the covers with a flashlight. She saw the ultrasound photo she would never be allowed to frame. She reached across the table, covered Olivia's trembling hands with her own. "Look at me." The girl did. Her eyes were Benjamin's eyes, hazel, flecked with gold, but the fear in them was new. "You are not a loose end," Martha said. "You are the beginning of everything." Olivia's sob broke free, raw and animal. She folded forward, forehead against Martha's shoulder, the way she had after her first heartbreak at 14. Martha held her, rocking slightly, the way she had rocked Benjamin when colic kept him screaming until dawn. History in her arms, lighter now, more fragile. When the crying eased, Olivia straightened, wiping her face with the quilt's edge. "I want to finish school. I want to keep my baby. I want," her voice cracked again, "I want you." Martha's heart split open and kept beating. "Then you'll have me." She stood, moved to the kitchen counter where Lila had left a legal pad. She wrote in her neat accountant's hand. "Safe house number 2, Nova Scotia, Chester Bay Cottage. Midwife contact, Lila's cousin, off-grid. Online homeschool, GED by spring. Trust amendment, Olivia beneficiary, irrevocable." She tore the page free, handed it to the girl. "Your new map." She stared at it, then at Martha. "They'll come for us." "They'll try." Martha's tone was winter ocean. "But I have 3 cottages, $2 million, and a granddaughter who just declared war. Let them come." Lila returned, fog clinging to her jacket. She took in the scene, Olivia curled into the quilt, Martha standing guard, and nodded once. "Road's clear. We leave at 0400. Tide's with us."
Martha packed while Olivia dozed on the couch, one hand curled protectively over the small life inside her. She added the burner phone to the go bag, then the Leica. She paused over the half-exposed film, Christmas 2019, the last time Olivia had smiled without fear. She advanced one frame, aimed at the sleeping girl, and pressed the shutter. Click. The sound was soft, final, a promise. At 3:47 a.m., they slipped out the back door. The fog had thickened to soup. The ocean was a rumor beyond the dunes. Lila carried the go bag. Martha supported Olivia, who moved with the careful gait of someone balancing a secret world. They reached the truck hidden under pine boughs. Martha tucked the quilt around Olivia in the back seat, kissed her forehead. Sleep. When you wake, we'll be across the border. As Lila eased onto the dirt track, headlights off, Martha looked back once. The cottage dissolved into mist, lamp glow shrinking to a firefly, then nothing. She thought of Olivia's lover waiting at some other cottage and Benjamin counting dollars that would never be his. In the rearview mirror, Olivia's breathing evened out, one hand still on her belly. Martha placed her own hand over her heart, felt the hard edge of the brooch. Inside it, the trust page waited, Benjamin Sr.'s last words, now Olivia's inheritance. The road north unspooled through darkness, fog parting like curtains. Behind them, the life they'd fled shrank to a spark. Ahead, 3 cottages waited on a foreign shore, doors unlocked, fireplaces cold but ready. Martha closed her eyes. For the first time since Dr. Sterling's note, she dreamed, not of betrayal, but of a baby's first cry echoing over Mahone Bay, and a girl in a whale hoodie learning to read the tide.
The real estate trap. The Zillow listing went live at 6 a.m., sharp as a guillotine. Martha saw it on Lila's tablet while the kettle hissed in the Chester Bay cottage. 4-bed, 3-bath, move-in ready, price to sell. The photos were hers. Her hydrangeas in full bloom, her kitchen island where she'd rolled 1,000 pie crusts, but the caption read, "Estate sale," in lowercase, as if grief were a discount. Olivia slept upstairs, one hand curled over the gentle rise of her belly. Martha stood at the window, fog pressing the glass like a warning. The Atlantic beyond was gunmetal, waves gnawing the rocks. She had crossed an international border to keep this view. Now Benjamin tried to auction it from under her. Lila entered without knocking, boots dripping. They're moving fast. Open house tomorrow. Eleanor's driving the staging. She set a small black disc on the table. GPS tracker, no larger than a quarter. We tag her car tonight. Paul Hayes is meeting them at the diner on Route 1. Cash drop. Martha's fingers closed around the tracker. It was warm from Lila's pocket. FBI? Ready when we are. They want Hayes on tape taking the bribe. 10 grand for the final forgeries, death certificate, revised trust. After that, your signature becomes a footnote. Martha nodded. The plan tasted like iron. They left at dusk, fog thinning to reveal a sky the color of a healing bruise. Olivia stayed behind with the midwife's cousin, a woman named Ruth, who spoke in low tides and kept a shotgun by the door. Martha kissed the girl's forehead, salt and sleep, and promised to return before moonset. The drive south was a fever dream of headlights and pine. Lila handled the truck like a surgeon, cutting through back roads until the GPS pinged. Eleanor's black SUV parked outside the Blue Plate diner, neon pie slice flickering. Paul Hayes' van idled 2 spaces over, rust eating the fender. Martha crouched in the truck bed, raincoat hood up, while Lila slid beneath the SUV. 30 seconds. The tracker adhered with a soft click. She was back behind the wheel before the diner door opened. Eleanor emerged first, heels clicking, trench coat cinched tight. Paul followed, carrying a pastry box. Brioche again, the currency of betrayal. They spoke too low for Martha to hear, but Lila's parabolic mic caught every syllable through the cracked window. 10 now and 10 on delivery, Eleanor said, sliding an envelope across the seat. Death by stroke, predated to last March.
makes the trust dissolution retroactive. Paul counted the bills, licked his thumb. Your mother-in-law's a ghost by Monday. They laughed, the sound of glass breaking in slow motion. Lila transmitted the audio live to the FBI van parked behind the lumberyard. Martha watched the agent's silhouette nod once, then melt into darkness. The open house was scheduled for 2 p.m. Sunday. Martha arrived at 1:57, dressed as a prospective buyer. Pearls, sensible pumps, the kind of woman who asked about school districts. The realtor, a blonde named Kaylee, with a clipboard and a smile sharp as gin, greeted her at the door. Martha Ellison, she lied smoothly, relocating from Portland. Kaylee's eyes flicked to the clipboard. Of course. Let me show you the chef's kitchen. Martha stepped inside. The house smelled of vanilla and desperation. Her furniture was gone, replaced by rented mid-century pieces that looked embarrassed to be there. The hydrangeas had been swapped for silk. A bowl of green apples sat on the island. Props, not food. Benjamin stood by the fireplace, suit too new, gesturing to a couple about the gas logs. Eleanor circulated with a tray of Prosecco, laugh bright as costume jewelry. They hadn't seen her yet. Martha drifted through the rooms like a ghost touring her own grave. In the study, her grandfather's desk had been replaced by a glass console. In the hallway, the runner was gone. The floor gleamed with fresh polyurethane, erasing decades of scuffs. She felt the loss in her knees. Kaylee cornered her in the master bedroom. The walk-in closet is to die for. Martha smiled, thin. I'll browse alone, thanks. She waited until Kaylee moved on, then slipped into the powder room, locked the door, opened the go bag she had carried as a purse. Inside, the Leica, the recorder, a single photograph. Olivia at 3, chasing bubbles in this very backyard. She set the photo on the sink, angled it toward the mirror. A message for whoever found it later. At 2:15, the house swelled with strangers. Martha moved among them, invisible in her ordinariness. She found Benjamin in the kitchen, alone for a moment, staring at the green apples as if they might confess. She stepped close. Hello, son. He spun, Prosecco sloshing. Recognition hit like a slap. Mom? Shh. She pressed the recorder's red button. Smile for the buyers. Eleanor appeared in the doorway, tray trembling. Martha, you're trespassing. Actually, Martha said, loud enough for the couple nearby to turn, I'm appraising my own theft. She held up the Leica, snapped a photo of their faces, Benjamin's shock, Eleanor's calculation. Flash bleached a room white. Benjamin lunged for the camera. Martha sidestepped, letting him stumble into the island. Apples rolled, one splitting open to reveal perfect, untouched flesh. Careful, she said. Buyers hate drama. Eleanor set the tray down with a clatter. Get out before we call the police. Go ahead. Martha's voice carried now, drawing a small crowd. Tell them how you forged my death certificate. Tell them about the $10,000 in Paul Hayes's van. The FBI's listening. Benjamin's face drained to the color of the apples. You're insane. Am I? She played the diner recording, volume maxed. Paul's voice filled the kitchen. Your mother-in-law's a ghost by Monday. The couple with the stroller backed away. Kaylee's smile froze. Eleanor's composure cracked. This is harassment, defamation. She stepped closer, close enough to smell Eleanor's perfume, something expensive and cold. You taught my granddaughter to fear her own shadow. You sold her future for a condo in Naples. Look at me. Eleanor did. For the first time, she saw the woman beneath the armor, afraid, cornered, small. Benjamin tried reason. Mom, we can fix this. Come home. We'll get you help. Help! Martha laughed, the sound jagged. You listed my home while I was still breathing in it. She turned to the growing cluster of onlookers, phones raised, recording. This is my house. My son planned to declare me dead to sell it. The FBI has the bribe on tape. Ask him yourself. Benjamin opened his mouth. closed it. The room pulsed with silence. Outside, tires crunched gravel, multiple vehicles, urgent. Red and blue lights strobed through the windows. Agents in windbreakers poured in, badges flashing. "Paul Hayes, you're under arrest," one shouted toward the backyard, where Paul had been lurking, pastry box in hand. Handcuffs clicked. Eleanor sagged against the counter. Benjamin stared at Martha as if seeing her for the first time, or the last. She stepped past him, through the agents, into the foyer where her grandfather's clock still ticked, smuggled back for staging. She opened the front door. Rain had started, soft and steady, washing the silk hydrangeas clean. On the porch, she paused. Behind her, Benjamin called her name, once, broken. She didn't turn. Martha walked down the steps, past the for sale sign, now streaked with mud. Lila waited in the truck, engine running. As they pulled away, Martha watched the house shrink in the rear view. Agents swarming, Eleanor on her knees, Benjamin standing very still in the kitchen's ruin. She rolled the window down. Rain kissed her face, cool and forgiving. The Leica rested on her lap, one frame left. She raised it, aimed it at the receding house, and pressed the shutter. Click. The film was full now, 24 moments of a life ending and beginning. She would develop it in Nova Scotia, under a darkroom sky, and hang the prints where Olivia could see what courage looked like when it finally came home.
The courthouse showdown. The courthouse in Portland rose from the November fog like a stone confession. Pillars streaked with rain, windows glowing amber against the gray. Inside, the air tasted of floor wax and anxiety. Martha sat in the front row, charcoal coat buttoned to the throat, hands folded over the enamel brooch that no longer hid secrets. Beside her, Olivia, 7 months along now, belly a quiet drum beneath a navy maternity dress, kept one palm pressed to the life they had saved. Lila stood guard at the aisle's end, eyes scanning every face. The gallery was packed. Reporters, neighbors who once waved over hydrangeas, a retired librarian who had taught Olivia to read. Dr. Sterling sat 3 rows back, face gaunt, the price of his warning etched in new lines. Across the aisle, Benjamin and Eleanor waited in separate cages of silence. He wore the same suit from the open house, now rumpled. She stared at her manicure, as if it might absolve her. Paul Hayes had already pled out. 5 years for the forgeries, his brioche empire reduced to prison oatmeal. The bailiff called the court to order. Judge Harlan, silver-haired and impartial, adjusted her glasses. Commonwealth versus Benjamin Whitby and Eleanor Whitby. Charges: conspiracy to commit fraud, elder abuse, attempted theft by deception. Martha's pulse was a metronome set to dread. The prosecutor, a woman named Delgado, with a voice like a blade, called Olivia first. The girl rose slowly, one hand on the rail for balance. She had cut her hair short, the ends brushing her collar like a dare. Under oath, her voice did not waver. "I recorded them the night Grandma went live. Mom, Eleanor, was on the phone with her lover, planning to sell the Naples condo to pay for my baby's adoption. Dad bribed Dr. Hale to diagnose dementia that didn't exist. They cloned credit cards in Grandma's name, $43,000 at Nordstrom's, casinos, a down payment on a boat they never launched." She listed the thefts like rosary beads. The offshore trust rerouted, the Nova Scotia deeds forged, the safe deposit box drilled. Each item landed with the weight of a stone. Benjamin's lawyer objected. Relevance, speculation, but Judge Harlan overruled. Olivia's eyes found Martha's across the room. "I'm okay," the look said. "We're okay." Delgado played the diner sting next. The courtroom speakers crackled. Then Paul Hayes' voice filled the silence. "Your mother-in-law's a ghost by Monday." Eleanor's sharp intake of breath was audible. Benjamin's hands clenched on the table until knuckles blanched. Martha was called last.
She walked to the stand with the measured grace of a woman who had buried a husband and a son in the same lifetime. The Bible felt warm beneath her palm. State your name for the record. Martha Elizabeth Whitby. Her voice carried to the back row, steady as the tide. Delgado asked the question everyone waited for. Why didn't you confront them privately? Martha looked at Benjamin. He met her gaze, then looked away. I gave them 45 years, she said. I gave piano lessons, college tuition, the down payment on their first house. I gave them my grief when their father died, my silence when they forgot my birthday. They gave me a coffin lined with forged papers. The gallery stirred. A juror daubed her eyes. She held up the Leica, admitted as evidence, film developed overnight. Delgado projected the final frame. The open house kitchen, apples split, Benjamin's face contorted mid-lunge, then the first frame. Olivia at 3, chasing bubbles in the backyard that was now for sale. These are the before and after, Martha said. I choose the after. Cross-examination was brutal. Benjamin's lawyer painted her as vindictive, senile, a grandmother scorned. Martha answered each barb with dates, dollar amounts, the exact pitch of Eleanor's laugh on the diner tape. When she stepped down, Olivia reached for her hand. Their fingers locked. 2 generations, 1 heartbeat. Closing arguments were swift. Delgado spoke of greed-wearing family face. The defense pleaded desperation, bad choices, love gone sideways. Benjamin stared at the table. Eleanor wept without sound. The jury deliberated for 93 minutes. Martha waited in the hallway, back against cold marble, Olivia's head on her shoulder. Lila brought coffee that tasted of cardboard and mercy. When the bailiff emerged, the corridor hushed. We, the jury, find the defendants guilty on all counts. Benjamin surged from his chair scraping like a scream. You little bitch! He lunged across the bar towards Olivia, arms outstretched as if to strangle the truth itself. Deputies tackled him midair. His tie caught on the rail, tore. Eleanor screamed once, a sound ripped from the root. Martha stood, shielding Olivia with her body. Benjamin's eyes found hers over the deputy's shoulders, wild, unrecognizable. Mom, he gasped, please. She said nothing. The deputies dragged him down. Sentencing was immediate. Judge Harlan's voice cut through the chaos. Benjamin Whitby, 12 years, Maine State Prison. Eleanor Whitby, 10 years, Women's Correctional Facility. Restitution in full plus punitive damages. The Nova Scotia properties remain in trust for Olivia Whitby and her child. The gavel fell like a coffin lid. Outside, rain had stopped. The sky cracked open to a weak November sun. Reporters swarmed, but Lila carved a path to the truck. Martha helped Olivia into the back seat, tucked the quilt around her. The girl was crying silently, shoulders shaking. Martha sat in beside her. It's over, sweetheart. Olivia shook her head. It's just beginning. They drove north, windows down, solved air flooding the cab. Martha opened the Leica, removed the developed strip of film, 24 frames, betrayal, flight, courage, justice. She held it to the light. The negatives glowed like stained glass. At the cottage, Ruth had chowder simmering. Olivia ate 2 bowls, then fell asleep on the couch, one hand on her belly. Martha sat on the porch, boots on the railing, watching the tide retreat. The hydrangeas here were wild, untamed, blue as forgiveness. Lila joined her, offered a flask. Martha took a sip. Whiskey, smoke, the taste of survival. Benjamin will appeal, Lila said. Let him, Martha capped the flask. Appeals don't erase 12 years. She slipped the film into an envelope, addressed it to the local library. Subject line? For the children's wing. Inside, a note. Courage develops in the dark. The sun dipped, painting the bay bronze. Somewhere south, her old house stood empty.
For sale sign weathered but intact. She would buy it back one day, fill it with books and babies, and the sound of Olivia laughing at the stove. For now, the cottage was enough. 3 rooms, 1 fireplace, a future growing kick by kick beneath her granddaughter's heart. Martha closed her eyes. The ocean kept its ancient rhythm, indifferent and eternal. She matched her breathing to it. 45 years of giving finally balanced by one clear receipt: justice served warm.
The garden replanted. The new house sat on a bluff above St. Margaret's Bay, cedar shingles bleached silver by salt and sun. It was smaller than the old bungalow, 2 bedrooms, 1 bath, a kitchen barely big enough for 2. But the windows faced east, and every morning, the Atlantic spilled gold across the floors, like a promise kept. 6 months had passed since the gavel fell. Martha stood in the garden at dawn, coffee cooling in her hand, watching fog lift off the water. The plot was a riot of wildflowers, lupin, paintbrush, black-eyed Susans she had seeded herself. In the center, a circle of forget-me-nots bloomed defiant blue, their petals the exact shade of the hydrangeas she had left behind. Olivia emerged from the house, graduation gown draped over her arm, cap tassels swinging. At 17, nearly 18, she had finished high school online, aced her exams, and enrolled in Dalhousie's pre-law program with a focus on elder justice. Her belly was a proud crescent now, 8 months along, the baby due any day. She moved with the careful grace of someone carrying tomorrow. Mail came, she said, holding up a thick envelope. Acceptance letter. Full scholarship. Martha set her mug on the porch rail, opened her arms. Olivia stepped into them, gown rustling like wings. They stood that way until a kick rippled between them. Small foot, big opinion. Little troublemaker agrees. Martha murmured. You earned this. They had chosen the name already. June. After the month Benjamin Sr. proposed on this very shore, before children, before betrayal. June Whitby Ellison, hyphenated to honor both blood and choice. Inside, the kitchen table held a different envelope. Thinner, official. Restitution from the court. The Naples condo sold at a loss. The offshore trust clawed back penny by penny, enough to buy this cottage outright, seed the Sterling Fund, and tuck a college nest egg away for June. Benjamin's appeals had burned through his own savings. Eleanor's lover had vanished, taking the boat and the Prosecco dreams with him. Martha poured tea. Chamomile. No sugar now. Olivia's tastes had changed with the baby. They carried their mugs to the garden, where a flat of forget-me-not seedlings waited in the shade. Dr. Sterling called, Olivia said, kneeling carefully. He's retiring, wants to volunteer with the fund. Martha's throat tightened. The doctor had lost his license for 6 months after the trial, punishment for the warning note, but the community had rallied. Patients wrote letters. The medical board relented. He had aged a decade in one winter. Tell him yes. We'll name the first shelter after him. The Sterling Fund had launched quietly, seeded with the Zillow proceeds from the old house, sold at last to a young couple who painted the kitchen yellow and filled it with dogs. The nonprofit offered legal aid, safe houses, and garden therapy for elders robbed of voice and home. Already, 3 women lived in the Chester Bay cottage, tending vegetables and their own slow healing. Olivia dug a small hole with the trowel, her movements practiced now. I talked to Dad last week, she said. Conjugal visit. He asked about the baby. Martha's hands stilled on the seedling tray. Benjamin's prison letters arrived monthly, addressed to Olivia in careful block print. She read them, answered sometimes, always with Martha's blessing. Forgiveness was a long road. They walked it one careful step at a time. What did you tell him? That June will know her grandfather through stories, the true ones. Olivia placed the forget-me-not in the earth, pressed soil around its roots. He cried, said he's proud of me for testifying. Martha knelt beside her, knees creaking but steady. She remembered Benjamin at Olivia's age, accepting his Stanford letter with the same fierce pride now blooming in his daughter. Blood was stubborn,
So was Grace. They planted in silence, row after row of blue. The sun climbed, burning off the last fog. Somewhere down the shore, gulls wheeled over fishing boats, returning with the tide. Martha's hands moved through the dirt, remembering her mother's garden, her grandmother's, the way women plant hope when words fail. Olivia sat back on her heels, wiped sweat from her brow. I got the internship. Nova Scotia Legal Aid, Elder Law Division, starts after June is born. Martha's eyes filled. She had not cried in court, not once, but here in the dirt she let the tears come. Quiet, cleansing. Your great-grandmother would have loved this. She lost her house to a son too. Never told a soul. Olivia reached for her hand. Soil smudged their joined fingers. We're telling now. They finished the circle just as the mail truck rattled up the gravel drive. The driver, a woman named Rose, who had once been a Sterling Fund client, waved a package. From Portland, she called. Special delivery. Martha signed, carried it inside. The return address, Naples State Prison. She slit the tape with the kitchen knife. Inside, a single forget-me-not pressed between wax paper and a note in Benjamin's handwriting. Mom, planted these in the yard here. They grow through concrete. Thought you should know. Love, Ben. She held the flower to the light. Its blue was faded but unbroken. Olivia read over her shoulder, then pressed her forehead to Martha's. Concrete, she repeated. Like us. That evening, they walked the shore path at dusk. Olivia's gait had slowed, but she refused the cane Martha offered. The tide was out, exposing tide pools where anemones waved like tiny hands. Martha carried the Leica, new film, 24 fresh frames. She had not taken a photo since the courthouse. Stop, she said suddenly. Olivia turned. The sky behind her was rose and violet, the wildflower garden a dark silhouette against the bluff. Martha raised the camera, focused, pressed the shutter. Click. The first photo of their new life. They ate chowder on the porch, June kicking in rhythm with the waves. Later, Olivia fell asleep on the couch, law textbooks open across her lap. Martha covered her with the sailboat quilt, then stepped outside. The forget-me-nots glowed faintly in the moonlight, a blue constellation grounded in earth. She knelt, touched one petal. The plant was small, tenacious, impossible to kill. Like memory. Like love. She thought of the old house, yellow kitchen, dogs barking. She thought of Benjamin in his cell, counting days by the growth of blue flowers. She thought of Eleanor, learning to garden in a prison yard, perhaps planting her own small defiance. Martha stood, brushed dirt from her knees. The wind carried salt and pine, the scent of second chances. She looked up at the stars, indifferent, eternal, and spoke to the night, to her husband, to the boy who had once chased bubbles in her yard. I gave them everything. They gave me back the truth. Turns out that's enough. Inside, Olivia stirred, murmured June's name in her sleep. Martha went to her, smoothed the hair from her forehead, and stayed until the girl's breathing evened out again. The garden would need weeding tomorrow. The fund had applications to review. June would arrive any day, red-faced and furious, demanding her place in the world. Martha smiled into the dark. Some things, once uprooted, bloom stronger in new soil. She left the porch light on, a small beacon against the vast Atlantic night, and went inside to wait for morning.
The first frost arrived on a Thursday, silvering the wildflowers and turning the forget-me-nots brittle at the edges. Martha stood at the kitchen window, coffee steaming in her hands, watching the garden exhale its last blue breath. Behind her, the cottage hummed with small domestic sounds, the kettle clicking off, the tick of the anniversary clock, June's soft coo from the bassinet by the stove. 8 months old now, June Whitby Ellison had her mother's hazel eyes and her great-grandmother's stubborn chin. She lay on her back, kicking chubby legs at a mobile of paper sailboats, laughing at nothing and everything. The sound was bright, unburdened, a bell rung in a new key. Olivia had left at dawn for her first day clerking at Legal Aid, blazer pressed, hair twisted into a knot that made her look 25 instead of 18. She had kissed June's forehead, then Martha's cheek, and whispered, "Call if she needs me," before disappearing down the gravel drive in the old pickup Lila had gifted them. Martha lifted June into her arms, felt the warm weight settle against her shoulder. The baby smelled of milk and salt air, the scent of beginnings. She carried her to the porch, where the mail sat on the railing. 3 envelopes, prison postmarks, edges worn from handling. She had not opened a single one. The first had arrived in May, Benjamin's handwriting careful on the envelope, then Eleanor's, sharper, accusatory even in the angle of the stamp. They came weekly now, a slow drip of regret and recrimination. Martha stacked them in a tin box on the highest shelf, beside the Leica and the developed film of their old life. Some days she forgot they existed. Today, the frost demanded a reckoning. She settled June in the playpen on the porch, surrounded by wooden blocks and a stuffed whale. The baby gummed a teething ring, eyes tracking Martha as she carried the tin box to the garden fire pit. The metal was cold, heavier than memory. Lila had built the pit from field stones the summer they arrived, circles within circles, like the forget-me-not bed. Martha knelt, arranged kindling, struck a match. The flame caught, hungry and orange, licking at the dawn chill. One by one, she fed the envelopes to the fire. Benjamin's first. "I dream of the lake house. I'm sorry doesn't cover it, but it's all I have." The paper curled, blackened, became ash. Eleanor's, "You turned my daughter against me. She'll see the truth when the money runs out." The ink bled, then vanished. June babbled, a string of nonsense syllables that sounded suspiciously like gamma. Martha glanced over, the baby waved the whale like a flag of surrender. Another letter, Benjamin again, describing the prison garden. How the forget-me-nots had spread to the exercise yard. How the guards let inmates tend them. He wrote of Olivia's last visit, how she had brought June's ultrasound photo, how he had cried into his sleeve so the other men wouldn't see. Martha's hand trembled, but she did not stop. The flames took the words, transformed them into heat and light. She thought of the old hydrangeas, cut down for staging, replaced with silk. She thought of the yellow kitchen in the house that was no longer hers, filled now with a stranger's dogs and laughter. The final envelope was thick, Eleanor's handwriting scrawling across the front. Martha hesitated, thumb traced the seal. Inside, she knew, would be blame, Martha's fault for testifying, for winning, for refusing to die quietly. She had read enough in the margins of court transcripts. She tossed it whole. The envelope blistered, split, revealed a single pressed forget-me-not, blue, perfect, stolen from the prison yard. The flower caught, flared, became a brief blue star before collapsing into ember. June's laugh rang out again, pure and piercing. Martha turned to see the baby had pulled herself to standing in the playpen, hands gripping the rail, eyes fixed on the fire. For a moment, grandmother and granddaughter stared across the smoke, 2 survivors of the same storm. Martha crossed the grass, lifted June into her arms, the baby patted her cheek with sticky fingers, then pointed at the sky where gulls wheeled white against the pale November blue. "Bird," Martha said softly, "they're coming home." She carried June to the garden's edge, where the forget-me-nots stood frost-laced but unbowed. The fire pit crackled behind them, consuming the last of the letters. Ash rose in delicate spirals, caught the wind, and drifted out over the bay. Martha knelt, let June's bare feet touch the cold earth. The baby squealed, toes curling in the dirt. Martha pressed a seed packet into the soil. Rupine for next spring. June's small hand closed over hers, guiding the trowel with surprising strength. Together, they planted. The cottage door opened. Olivia's voice carried on the wind. "Mom, June's appointment." She stopped, took in the scene. The dying fire, the ash on the breeze, her daughter and grandmother knee-deep in the future. Martha looked up, eyes bright. "We're just finishing breakfast," she said. Olivia smiled, the expression soft and fierce. She joined them, blazer shed, sleeves rolled up. The 3 generations formed a small circle around the new seed, hands layered in the dirt. Above them, the sun climbed, indifferent and eternal. The forget-me-nots shimmered. Blue was forgiveness, blue was memory. Martha felt the weight of June against her hip, the warmth of Olivia's shoulder against hers, the cool earth beneath her knees. She thought of the letters now ash, of the house sold, of the 12 years and 10 that ticked away in separate cells. She thought of Benjamin Sr.'s voice on a dock long ago. "Redundancy, Marty. Like love." The fire popped, a final punctuation. Martha stood, brushed soil from her hands, and looked out at the bay. The water was glass, reflecting sky and gulls and the small, fierce family she had rebuilt from ruins. June reached for her face, patted her cheek again. "Gamma," she said, clearly, the word of benediction. Martha kissed the baby's palm, then Olivia's forehead. The wind shifted, carrying wood smoke and salt and the faint, sweet scent of blue flowers that refused to die. "Some lights go out, others learn to burn brighter alone." She said it aloud, a vow to the morning, to the garden, to the child who would never know her grandfather's crimes, but would know her granddaughter's courage. The fire settled into embers. Martha scattered the ashes over the forget-me-nots, a gray blessing. Then she carried June inside, Olivia's hand in hers, the door closing soft behind them. Outside, the garden held its breath, waiting for spring. Inside, the kettle began to sing.